With the 1st November 2017 at Wembley Stadium, Tottenham vs Real Madrid in the Champions League group stages. The most successful in Europe on one side, and on the other side a 21-year-old kid from Milton Keynes. And in the space of 45 minutes, that kid made the whole entire footballing world stop and stare. He scores 2 goals against Real Madrid at Wembley. There is the swagger, the movement, the finishing. For a moment, just for a moment, English football allowed itself to dream. This is the one. Not since Paul Gascoigne, not since Paul Scholes, not since anyone, England had produced a number 10 like this. A player who could score goals that did make sense. A player who carried himself, that he's been doing this his whole life. At 21, the world was his. At 26, he was gone. And what happened in between had very little to do with football, but with mental health issues, with trauma, with battles that no training session could really prepare you for. This isn't the story of a wasted talent. This is a story of a human being who fought battles most of us will never understand and happened to be playing football while doing it. His name is Dele Alli, and it's time we tell his story properly. Dele Alli was born in Milton Keynes, a city about 50 miles north of London. To understand his story properly, you have to understand his childhood. So Dele Alli grows in a family that's not really a family, because he grows alone with his mother who struggles with alcoholic problems. His father is in Nigeria, so his household isn't stable.
But I had no rules. I grew up without any rules. Like I said, my mum she drank a lot. So
Dele Alli spends the most of the time in the streets, in the road, and then he starts, picking up bad habits. He is even exposed to bad things like drugs later on, and that's before he's even 10 years old, to put that in context. So his mother makes a decision that changes a bit his life. He decides to send him to Nigeria at just 8 years old to learn discipline. He's gonna be with his father, and her mother hopes really that will change Dele Alli. But then 6 months later, Dele Alli is back in England, and he's back in the same environment. He's back in the same problems.
And then I was sent back. 7, I started smoking. 8, I started dealing drugs. 11, I was hung off a bridge.
But then one decision is about to change Dele Alli's life forever. A family decides to adopt him, so they decide to take him on, give him structure, give him love, and give him a home, the structure that he has been missing. And as he was having a structure, he was having hobbies, he fell in love with a specific sport, and it's football. And at just 11 years old, he signed for MK Dons youth team, and 5 years later, at just 16, he made his debut, becoming the youngest ever debutant in their history. Game time. In the second season, a player in midfield leaves, and Dele Alli gets suddenly more game time, and he's starting to show really the glimpse of potential that everyone had saw in the first season. So second season, we can even say he's carrying his team. MK Dons are fighting for a promotion in the championship, but then comes that moment that we all remember from that season. So it's FA Cup, and it's MK Dons vs Manchester United. So MK Dons beats Manchester United 4-0. They beat one of the best clubs in the world at that time, and Dele Alli is at the heart of it. So teams in the Premier League start sending scouts to watch him regularly. Liverpool are the first ones to send scouts. They're really interested, but a team moves faster than all the other Premier League teams that were interested, and it's Tottenham. They sign him for 5 million and decide to loan him back for the rest of the season. So they sign a kid from League One who's just 18 years old, so there's not really that much expectation. So Dele Alli ends that season with MK Dons, and he even successfully helps his club to get promoted back to championship. And yeah, it's now time that he joins the big boys in the Premier League, and what he's about to do in the first season is simply incredible. So Dele Alli arrives in North London in the summer of 2015, a year after Pochettino had arrived too. And Pochettino is about to become more than a manager for Dele, because we know Pochettino for his style of play, but Poch, what's really important about him, it's also how he is able to nurture young players, to trust really them and give them continuity in the first team. He had already done that with Harry Kane, with Christian Eriksen, and with Eric Dyer. Now it was Dele's turn to have his chance also.
I think Dele Alli always can surprise you. and you cannot guess with him. He have a great, unbelievable personality and character, and it's all possible with him.
And early on, it really works well for him because he scores his first goal for the club in his second match against Leicester. And then a few weeks later, he is even the man of the match in his first ever North London derby at just 19 years old. That's really promising. And then suddenly it was 5 goals and 3 assists in his first 17 matches. Again, that's really promising. But one of my favorite moments of that season came against Crystal Palace away. So he sort of gets the ball, he brings it down, and then he volleys the ball in the bottom corner, and that only in one movement. And that was voted, I think, BBC goal of the season. It was the best goal I had seen also that season. And I remember even Gareth Crook saying that he'd never seen something like that at that young age. And at that time, I thought he was right, because I remember watching him that season, how he was really good, and thought that maybe this is their new Gareth Bale, this is their next generational talent, this is the one. And that season, especially, that Spurs are genuine title contenders. They're fighting for the title with Leicester and a bit Arsenal, who are also behind. So unfortunately, that season there is that game against Chelsea where Spurs lose all the hope for the title, and they finish third, because at the last match also Arsenal wins, and Arsenal wins the second place. But Spurs finish only 4 points behind Leicester. That was the season to win maybe the Premier League. But individually though, Dele Alli finishes the season. In his first season, he finishes it with 10 Premier League goals, and as a midfielder, that's really not promising. That's elite. He's becoming one of the best talents in the league. Of course, he wins that season the PFA Young Player of the Year, the first of 2 consecutives. So after that missed title, Spurs keep up their form. They're really good. And I remember that time, this Spurs team is the one of the most enjoyable team to watch in the Premier League. Their team is really great. They have Kane leading the line. They have experienced defenders. They have attacking wing backs or full backs like Walker and Danny Rose. They have the criminally underrated Moussa Dembele in the midfield. Oh, he was bossing the midfield. How incredible he was, that player. Oh my god. And they have even a tip of everything in Dele Alli. Before that the season starts, Dele Alli decides to take a major decision. He decides to change his surname Ali to Dele on his shirt, so he no longer has the Ali name, it's only Dele, saying that he has no connection with his parents. So that tells you a bit what he was dealing with outside the pitch. But if we talk about on the pitch, he is still brilliant. The volleys are still ridiculous. The technical level is even better. The goals are still there. Dele Alli is hit in his prime. He even finishes that season with 22 goals across all competition.
At 18, winning the Young Player of the Year twice and scoring more goals than Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard under a certain age.
We're talking about the player that we're gonna bring back football at home. Although everything was going well on the pitch, we started also seeing the other side of Dele Alli. We start seeing some disciplinary issues, red cards here and there. We also start seeing a player who doesn't really care that much. He's arriving late on training. There is rumors about his lifestyle, and really there is a bit of mistakes here and there, but a lot is forgiven because he keeps delivering on the pitch. But at Euro 16, he's selected with England. He shows a flash of brilliance, but he really can't sustain it. But he is at the image of that English team. There is that Iceland game where they lose 2-1, and Dele, like most of his teammates, he looks lost on the pitch. It's one of the most embarrassing nights in, I think, in English football history. But England lose 2-1 and they're disqualified, and Dele Alli gets a lot of hate for that performances, and that a bit touches him. But what I loved with Dele at that moment, he didn't let that defy him. He came back even stronger. 2 years later at the World Cup in 2018, he is one of the best players of England. England makes their best run in 28 years, and Dele scores even that goal against Sweden, and he's even at the heart of the English best performance, I think, in that game in the quarterfinal where they beat Sweden and even reached the semi-finals. But though his inconsistency in the Premier League is still showing, Dele Alli is a player that can score in 5 consecutive games but then can disappear also in 5 consecutive games. That pattern starts a bit worrying most of the people. But for Tottenham, they're still dangerous, they're still competitive, and this time it's not even only in the Premier League, it's also in the Champions League. In 2019 they make a great run, they reach the semi-finals, they're gonna face Ajax, a team that we all thought was gonna win, a team that was really playing incredible brand of football, who had just beaten Juventus, who had just beaten Real Madrid. So they loses 1-0 at home, and everyone thinks that it's over for them. And in the second leg, they even lead 2-0, and we all think that it's over for Spurs. And then Lucas Moura decides otherwise, because he scores a hat-trick, and the Dele Alli is even at the heart of the third goal. He's involved with that movement in the third goal. So Spurs are qualified for their first Champions League final. Maybe this is gonna be the consecration of that Pochettino's project. So they face Liverpool in Madrid at the Stadium of Wanda Metropolitano, and we can say that they really face a better team, because they're gonna lose 2-0. They're really non-existent, and Dele Alli is non-existent for 81 minutes, and Spurs keep their losing brag on them for that season yet. But still, Daniel Levy has seen enough to reward Dele Alli with a new contract till 2024. At that time, Dele Alli is also at the peak of his value. He's still valued around 100 million, and the future is promising, but something is about to shift. A few months later, after that Champions League final, Spurs are going to take a decision that's not going to be beneficial for Dele Alli. The manager who always believed in him is sacked, because Spurs are sitting 14th in the league table. And just like that, Pochettino was gone. And Pochettino wasn't really just a manager for Dele Alli. He was like a father figure. He was the one that believed in him when no one else did. The one that sort of built an entire system around what he could do. And suddenly Dele Alli lost again his another father figure. He had lost his biological father, and suddenly he was also another father figure he had lost. And who arrives to replace him? The special one, Jose Mourinho. And I can tell you immediately, he's not gonna be as patient as Pochettino was.
Probably the saddest moment for me was when Mourinho was manager. I think I was 24.
He even has a different coaching, we can say, tactic than Pochettino, and he immediately started criticizing Dele Alli.
I understood already. Where is Dele? I understood already that you are a fucking lazy guy in training.
He goes even on camera and says, is it Dele or is it Dele's brother? Publicly humiliating him in front of the cameras. And that's gonna work for a moment, because we're gonna see again a glimpse of talent of Dele Alli. We're gonna see Dele Alli scoring few goals. He's gonna even play Dele Alli even closer to the goal. So it's gonna work for a few moments.
Why you have in your career these little ups and downs, I don't know. I have no idea. Only you can know that. I think one day, I think you will regret if you don't reach what you can reach.
But as you all know, that strategy doesn't last. And Spurs decide to bring in even another coach, as they decide to sack Jose Mourinho. And the next coach is even worse. They bring in Conte. Conte has really zero even patience for Dele Alli. It's the wrong managers at the worst time for him. His performances start declining. We start seeing really the other side of Dele Alli, a player who's lost his hunger, who seems disconnected, who seems to have reached the top and doesn't want to make any more efforts. And at that time, Spurs start recognizing it. So his value has really decreased, but it's still high enough for a Premier League to be interested. And in January, Spurs are gonna let him leave on a free to join Everton. At that time, Everton are managed by another legendary English midfielder, Frank Lampard. We all think that maybe Frank Lampard has seen something, that maybe he is the one that's gonna bring us our Dele Alli. But at Everton, it's a total flop. Then he's loaned to Besiktas in Turkey, and at Besiktas it's a complete flop. Also, he's even booed by his home fan. And then lately it was Como in Italy, with Cesc Fabregas managing Como. We all thought that maybe Cesc Fabregas, also another legendary midfielder, could get the best out of him, but he made one appearance, got a red card, and then he was released. And now at 29 years old, he is a free agent. Remember, the kid that scored 2 goals against Real Madrid at Wembley is now a free agent at 29. So we all ask ourselves, how does that happen? And the answer is in the next part we're gonna see. As we were all wondering what happened to Dele Alli, he sat down on the Overlap podcast with Gary Neville in 2023, and suddenly everything made sense. The inconsistency, the performances, everything had made sense, because he revealed that he was abused.
At 6, I was molested by my mum's friend who was at the house a lot.
And he was carrying that in silence for its entire career. He also revealed an addiction to sleeping pills, where he did get to go in rehab in America. And honestly, everything he'd been carrying made sense at that moment. So Dele Alli wasn't a player that stopped caring. He was a human being in pain, trying to hold a footballing career while fighting battles nobody could really understand and nobody knew also that existed. What hit me the hardest in that interview was like, he was delivering pure moments of magic while still carrying all of that, you know, moments against Real Madrid, that Crystal Palace goal, that moment also in the World Cup against Sweden. He was showing brilliance on the pitch while still inside fighting battles that we can't understand. And I think that takes a lot of strength that we will never even understand in our own lives. So after getting help in the USA, Dele Alli is now back in training. He's even using Spurs facilities to get back in form, and that also says a lot about Spurs, but also as about Dele. He has been an important player for them. He still uses their training facilities, and we still really hope he can get back on the pitch. We don't know what the next chapter looks like, but we're rooting for him. I'll be honest with you, this video was personal for me because I grew up watching Dele Alli. I even thought he's gonna be one of the best English players of my generation. And when he disappeared, I was frustrated, like probably a lot of you were. But now I understand, and understanding changes everything. Dele Alli isn't a story about a wasted talent. It's about a person who survived something enormous and still delivered moments of pure magic on the pitch. And that takes a lot of strength most of you will probably even never understand. So Dele, if you ever see this, thank you. Thank you for everything. We never stopped believing in you. And guys, so if you enjoyed this video, make me know it by liking, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe for more football content, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.